Machine Gun Johnny Ng.
In face of organized crime, the Chinese connection.
In the early 80s, there was a fight inside the Flying Dragons for the soul of that organization. And the guy who was running it, Michael Chen, called the Scientist, really had the iron control. It was Bruce Lee on steroids and with a very active life of drugs, girls, and spending big money. He has the one great feature that everybody has in their 20s. They feel invincible. Johnny Ng had been in Hong Kong, born and raised there. He wants to take the Flying Dragons more into heroin. The Scientist, Chen, doesn't think that heroin's their thing. He thinks he should just be getting paid to run protection. And it's running protection and doing gambling that's their main thing. So how does that fight get resolved? One day, Michael Chen, he has the bad luck of running into 14 bullets. 4 of them through his eyes. And that's the end of his tenure.
Onion Head.
The story was that if you crossed him, you ended up with tears in your eyes. Johnny Ng's heroin dealing alone is more than $10 million a year in business. They would be cultivated by a member of the police. That informant status protected them as they continue to move up in the organization. And Johnny Ng did it perfectly. Better thing to do than to use the police to go after your rivals. I'll tell you about this shipment of heroin coming in tomorrow at this location, and the police make a bust, they love it, and they're actually hurting your rivals. You destroy them by feeding information to the cops. The Tongs competed against each other for business. So at the intersection of the areas they controlled, if a gambling den opened up, one might say, that belongs to me. Another one might say, no, it belongs to me. That shooting happened at the Hip Sing, the Tong headquarters. Nobody, no street criminal, nobody, even somebody as brazen as a 25-year-old gangster like Johnny Ng would ever take the chance of doing something on the premises of the Tong unless they were sending a message out. I have the backing of the Tong on this. You can't go against me. As with any good smuggler, Johnny Ng used a whole host of things to bring drugs in. Belts that had false backs, and you could put hundreds and hundreds of belts in a shipment and they would have the drugs stuffed inside. Stuffed animals, which I always love because it takes a mean customs agent to slice open a little teddy bear. Even in tea packets, so that the tea would come in and the actual heroin would be inside the packet. To the extent that a gangster could trademark a name for his product, Johnny Ng's Flying Dragons provided China White. That was the word. That's what spread around New York. Guy, what's he doing? What most 26 and 27-year-olds are doing. He's buying an estate out in Pennsylvania. He's taking his fellow Flying Dragons, driving them from New York to his spot in Pennsylvania at the farm, and they're doing machine gun practice. They're able to come down with the indictment and the seizure, and they come to arrest him, but he's into the air and gone. He travels under his real name and passport and leaves JFK, goes back to Hong Kong. It's very understandable how Johnny Ng could think that once he gets back to Hong Kong, he will be protected. It was a city with a lot of wealth and great culture and fantastic food, but it was the Wild West when it came to crime. It was only through tremendous pressure, back-channeled, by the U.S. government and the Justice Department to say, we want it back. If they allowed the guy who had become head of the Flying Dragons, who had built up a heroin empire, to go free, it looked bad. If Hong Kong sent out the message, hey, guess what? We're safe haven. You get back here, you're smart enough to get back, you can stay, it was going to be bad.
It took the lead prosecutor, had a nickname of her own.
Kathy Palmer is given the name the Dragon Lady not by the guys inside her unit, but by the street guys like Johnny Ng, not as a compliment, but as quite an insult. It's the equivalent of saying the Dragon Bitch. But she knew it, she liked it, she was what I call a force of nature. I'm sure that the effort was great to intimidate or eliminate the witnesses against Johnny, but it didn't happen. Johnny Ng sat there snickering off him, much to the judge's disdain, because he didn't think he was going to jail. There's nothing that takes a smirk off a defendant's face faster than hearing one word, guilty. Johnny Ng's conviction probably stunned him, but he got off better than he could have.
The leader of the Flying Dragons was acquitted on the charge of running a continuing criminal enterprise.
Under the Kingpin Act, he could have gone to life in prison without parole.
Johnny Ng served his time and was released from prison on November 8th, 2010. He hasn't been heard from since. 8 months after Machine Gun Johnny became a free man, his wife, Lori Ng, was killed in a quiet Queens neighborhood.
Is it payback for something that they waited for him to come out and then they said to him at the last moment, now you can't spend it with your wife? We don't know, but it's very, there are coincidences and then things that just look like it's too strange to be a coincidence. That's one of them.